Welcome to Making It with Terry Wollman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Wollman.
Welcome to Making It. I'm your host, Terry Wollman. I'm really excited. My friend Carnie Wilson is with us today. We have a long history, and Carnie, I love you, so I'm so happy to see you.
I love you too. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. This show is about creating a successful life and what that means to my guest today, singer-songwriter, TV personality, author, and mother, Carnie Wilson. I'd like to share my intention that inspires this podcast. Time passes quickly, and I've learned that we should do what's in our hearts and do it well without apologies or excuses. I encourage you to create your life and art in your own unique way and express your artistry with joy and with abandon. Be willing to work uncompromisingly for what you believe in. Success will have a better chance of finding you when you live your life with integrity, focus, and passion. Be selfish with your discipline and selfless in your performance. And don't forget to have fun along the way. If you're joining us in our live audience today, we'll be inviting questions and comments during the second half of the show. So make it count. Simply request an invite to speak, and we'll bring you up on stage. Let me tell you about my guest. Carnie Wilson was born in Los Angeles, the daughter of Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys and singer Marilyn Rovell of the Honeys. She co-founded the iconic pop music trio Wilson Phillips with her younger sister Wendy and childhood friend Chynna Phillips when they were in their teens. They released 2 hit albums, Wilson Phillips and Shadows and Light, which sold over 12 million copies and charted 3 number 1 singles and 6 top 20 hits before disbanding in 1993. Carnie and Wendy continued recording both as solo artists and featured guests with notable artists including Elton John, James Ingram, Stephen Bishop, Billy Idol, Robert Palmer, and their dad, Brian Wilson, before reuniting with Wilson Phillips in 2004. Carnie has appeared on Entertainment Tonight, Chopped All-Stars Celebrities, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, VH1 Celebrity Fit Club, The Newlywed Game, Celebrity Wife Swap, which I missed, The Apprentice, The Talk, Bridesmaids, the movie, and most recently, The Masked Singer, beautifully sung and performed, by the way. Wilson married musician-producer Rob Bonfiglio in 2000. They have 2 daughters, Lola and Lucy. Carnie Wilson, welcome to Making It, my friend.
Thank you, Terry. What an introduction. Oh my God. I don't know if I feel proud or old.
Well, both.
Maybe both.
You know, speaking of feeling old, I have a funny memory of us because we played together many years ago when you're right between your first and second album. When the second album was launching, it was a joy to work with you and your 2 cohorts. You were amazing young women. My first impression was the first time we met actually was at a board meeting at the agent's office. And there was like 20 suits and a huge board table, and it was a pretty unfriendly environment. And then I looked across the table and I saw you smiling at me, and I felt comfortable. And I thought, well, I just need to focus on the 3 of you and we'll get through this intimidation meeting. And then the next time we met was the 3 of you rolled up to my house for our first just production meeting, vocal rehearsal. And the 3 of you coming, this is what made a real beautiful impression for me. The 3 of you coming from your 3 different homes, our meeting, whatever, it was at 10 a.m. in the morning. At 9:58, 3 cars rolled up in precision to the front of the house, and you all knocked on the door right on time. And walked in and said something crude and funny, and that was the beginning of our friendship at that point. But
yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. Well, that was, that was a long time ago.
It sure
first
was.
of all, I'm trying to get a phone charger because I realized that my phone battery is all crazy right now.
Well, we're taking a walking tour.
I'm wandering the house right now trying to find a phone charger. Isn't this crazy?
Is anybody home? Is Rob home? Can he grab one for you, or he's in the studio?
He's home.
He's working for you.
But it means I have to go text him and stuff, but I'm on here. So
got it.
I'm going to make this work. I'm going to make it work.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't remember what you were talking about, but I know that when we would show up for meetings that it's like we were usually punctual and I was the one who was the foul mouth,
Yeah.
The one that was like the communicator, of the 3, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But when it came time to sing, everybody was on their game. You were incredibly
of course.
focused, and I appreciated and respected that so much. But you were mentioning old. You know, I wasn't going to start the conversation with this because I have a quote I want to begin with, but it just reminded me also. I have one other many memories of us through the years, but there was one where we were traveling someplace and we were in a freight elevator, and I think "Hold On" came on on the speaker, the radio was playing. And I think it was you that just said, can you imagine us when we're older and the three of us are just singing "Hold On" in some lounge?
Yeah. It's so funny.
Yeah.
It's really weird because like still randomly the song will come on and I'll be out somewhere and it's just so that same feeling 32 years ago, hearing it on the radio. And today I still get that same feeling like, wow, I can't believe it's playing, every time it comes on and just and it comes on at times when I almost need, like, I'll say, God, give me a sign about this or that. And then it will come on. I'll be at the market. It'll come on. It's extraordinary. I don't know what else to say.
It is extraordinary.
It's still a trip when your own song comes on the radio still. Yeah.
But it's a beautiful reminder of who you are and what you've accomplished in your life and in your intention, and which leads to a quote of yours. So let me start with that, which is where I was going to begin our show and our conversation.
Yeah.
This is your words. Don't compare yourself to other people. Focus on your own energy, your own talent, because everybody has some. Believe you can have anything you want in your life. You can make it happen. Don't worry about what other people think. Be positive. That's the biggest thing. Stay positive. There's a reason for everything, and there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. Believe in yourself.
God, words I live by every day.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's why I liked what you said in the beginning about the intention of your show. You know what I mean? Like, I think that people like us, we gravitate towards each other and we appreciate our morals, our values, but our hearts, and the word integrity is so important. And I like that you have that in the opening, because it is about integrity. And, if you have integrity, that means you have passion. It means you have purpose. It means you have, it's purpose, it's integrity. You're true. You're true to it, to that feeling or your goal. And, it's staying real, I mean, listen, like today is a day, I called you before we started this. Today's a day where everything is crazy. Like I've got the phone charger because I didn't do it in time. Life is in session. And, there are days when you feel like it's overwhelming and you can't handle it. And you're late and you're missing deadlines and you're doing your stuff. But, it's just 24 hours in a day.
Right.
And so like the next day you have the chance to recharge overnight and wake up and say, you know what, God, thank you for another day. And today I'm going to try to, be more positive. And it's just, that's my survival skills. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Mine as well. To do your best and then be okay with that. To know whatever you didn't get done or wherever you fell short, you get another opportunity.
Yeah. I think it's great.
As long as you keep your head in the game and stay positive about it, like you are,
right?
And talking about it,
and it's sometimes it's easier said than done. You know what I mean? I mean,
oh yeah.
There are days when I feel very creative and very capable, and like I can attack things and tackle things, and there are other days when I doubt myself, like because I either succumb to like the quesadilla at 11 o'clock at night. Or I go, oh, damn it. I wanted to start the diet today or whatever. And it's like, I think we beat ourselves up a lot when we quote fail at something one more time or whatever. Right. But I just know that every day is another opportunity. And I just have to remind myself, when the kids are going through something hard, like my daughter Lucy just had COVID and it was really hard on her body. And she's going through a lot of anxiety right now. And I just said to her last night, I said, something? You feel this way now, but tomorrow's a new day. And, you might feel differently tomorrow. And that's the good news, is that we can start over. Every day we can start over.
Hearing you say that, I've met your mom. I don't really know your dad very well. I've met him before, but your mom I got to know years ago when we were working together, and I see some of her positivity in you.
Yeah.
And you've had an opportunity. Both of us come from a split family, divorced home when we were about the same age. I think you were 12 or 13.
Yeah, I was just 12. Yes.
Yeah, I think I was 13 when my folks split up, and so it's devastating, it's traumatizing, it scars us, but it also allows us to do better in our own lives. And you've done a beautiful job. I've seen you with your kids. You and Rob are great parents.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's beautiful to see.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. I mean, it's you just try to. You try to stay together. My kids have friends whose parents got divorced, and we promise ourselves that when we argue and when we go through these hard times or whatever, that we're here for the long run.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it goes for a lot of partnerships in life, I think, really, right. That no one is perfect. And we have all these expectations from people and also from like the results of things, like I want to sell this many records. I want this many, sales in this. I want the promotion. I want this and that. And, I mean, sometimes it's so funny because I think about the things that I've been involved with, and some things have been very successful, very successful, selling a lot of records like that. I mean, it's like, I can't even believe it. And then there are times when I think, well, this book didn't do well. This, you have these institutions that say you're a failure, and it's very hard on your psyche because you put all your heart and soul into it.
Right.
And then what are you measuring the success by? The sales of records? I mean, doesn't mean I didn't make a great record. You know what I mean?
Right.
Doesn't mean that, that the body of work that I created and put so much love and effort and energy into wasn't a success in the sense of just the accomplishment of it. People have to remember, I mean, we can set our own goals, but sometimes it's just not in our hands.
Well, absolutely.
And,
and some of your failures, certainly I've witnessed your successes and what might be described as failures, but we first came into each other's lives around when your second album was coming out, which was
I'm plugging in my phone right now. Hold on.
Excellent.
Go ahead. I hear you. Go ahead.
So, it was, some people said that second record was a failure, but that failure in some people's eyes, in my eyes, was this incredible achievement to only sell 4 million records, and to have that held against you to me was absolutely insane. I told you that at the time, that's the kind of, that failure is the kind of success other people dream of.
Oh, God,
even myself as an artist back then. And so, it really is about the work. It's about the creative, it's about what you create. And it's about, there's one other thing that I was going to read. So I'll just read it right now in your words.
Yeah.
I feel like I was put on the earth to help people like themselves more and live their lives more fully. It starts with the heart, who you are inside. What are you going to do for yourself and for the people that you love? And that's where I always see you coming back to, no matter what kind of success or lesser success other people might call failure is thrown at you or that you experience or achieve, you still come back to your heart all the time.
Always. And that's the integrity, and also like I'm a big communicator with people, and my favorite thing is just to connect with people. So there's many ways to do that. I mean, it's just like, I think that, people talk about loneliness and depression and mental health, and it's a really, really, really big deal now. And it's not just like this, what's the topic of the day? Oh, mental health is like something that's it's like a trend, like, oh, it's mental health. Right now it's about mental health. No, actually it's not right now. It's been forever like that. It's just, there weren't as many solutions and people weren't talking about it. So I do think that our own mental health, it's not just about like someone like the extreme of like someone's insane or they're not, or, it's people like me who suffer from a mild chronic depression. It's a mild chronic depression that I've had my whole life. And maybe it's because I come from a broken home. Maybe it's because I didn't,
have a father who's real hands-on, loving every day, and this sort of like, quote, healthy unit of a family eating dinner together. But, I just feel like there's dysfunction in everybody's lives when they grow up. And it's learning, and getting tools that can help you through the rocky times. And the mental health thing is really, really important. And it's good to just, you feel your feelings and you're like, something bad happens and you feel the feelings and it's legit. It's fucking legitimate that you're depressed or you're sad or you're whatever about something. And then there are people that just suffer from daily sadness or they're not motivated. And there are so many ways that we can, and to me, the way to conquer that kind of stuff is connecting with other people and finding the things that you're passionate about. If whatever makes you happy, that could be watering your garden, that could be taking walks, that could be, you love to be at the grocery store and bag groceries for customers and you connect with those customers every day. You fix pipes, you're a doctor, you're whatever it is that brings you some kind of, where you feel purposeful. Mm-hmm. I want to be useful in my life because I know what it's like to not be useful. I know what it's like to go into very, very dark places where I just want to get a vodka bottle, a bottle of vodka, drink the vodka and go into my closet and not talk to anybody and just get shit-faced. I know what that is like. I know what it's like to check out. And there are times when I want to check out. And by the way, last month going through this COVID thing with Lucy, I wanted a drink because I was like, I was in the ER. She had machines hooked up to her. It was so scary.
Yeah. Terrifying.
And, we do go through these things, but it's like, I know that if I stay present, I'm very spiritual. I do a lot of praying. I have a higher power of my own. I've been sober for 20 years. I don't have to rely on drugs and alcohol myself anymore to what I think is getting me through hard and difficult times. I'm no different than anybody else. And that's a big thing I try to talk about because people put, celebrity and famous people on these, not just pedestals, but almost like we're not real, like we don't experience these things. And we do. And we're all equal. And that's the point. Everyone is equal. Anyone that believes that they're not they're the ones with the problem because that's not me. I don't believe that.
Do you have a daily practice? You're speaking about meditation and healthy. You've always, by the way, I know this about you. Some people might not, but you've always been really physically active, physically healthy, conscious of food. You love food. You love cooking. You've written books about cooking. But let's talk more about your spiritual grounding center. What do you get up in the morning? And I know you've got a million things, you get shot out of a cannon when you wake up, because you've got two girls and a busy professional life and a marriage and doggies and house, repairs and, life. But what's your practice? How do you find your center throughout the day?
Well, I don't know if I find my center throughout the day, but, you're right. I do get out of bed and there are I find that when I get out of bed and I drop to my knees and I pray at the end of my bed, I say the serenity prayer and then I thank God for another day. I thank God for my sobriety. It's not a religious God. It's just a higher power, something that's bigger than me. And if someone is religious, great. I think that's great. Whatever connects you to something, with faith, I think is really important. But, I try to sort of relinquish my own will every day. And this is very much, AA program talk, and I'm not pushing that. For me, it's worked. I haven't picked up a drink, or a drug in 20 years. So that's what I do.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And it's not easy because Lord knows, it's like, if it was up to me, I'd be in Vegas with a slot machine, a couple of male escorts, some Twinkies and some martinis.
Right.
And then I'd be really excited for 5 minutes. And then I would drink too much, pass out, and then I'd feel like shit. That's just, So I'm definitely a person of extreme and I'm very prone to addiction. And I would not say that I am the epitome of health. I have struggled with weight for a very long time. I still do. I still do.
Yeah.
And every day it's just trying to be as healthy as possible. And, I wish I could say that I got addicted to exercise, and my husband's a big hiker and it's hard for me to hike. I'm over 200 pounds. It's hard to get myself up that hill, but I go in and out of, how do I center myself? And it's usually through prayer. It's usually through prayer. And of course, I go to my meetings because that's what helps me stay sober. But it really applies to my whole life. It's like, if I think that I'm, if I have all the answers, I have nothing to learn. I have to be teachable. I have to remain teachable
and curious,
humble, right,
and open.
And open and curious and have humility, because I've had, lots of money in the bank and lots of success and still felt so lonely. And then I meet somebody like Rob, who is, I would say my soulmate, someone that I can truly be myself with and someone who I share passions with. We argue a lot. We fight a lot. He's very different than me. Like he's real quiet and real, like, he plays jazz guitar for hours every day and he's real quiet in his own mind, but he's not a great communicator. So I'm like, just tell me how you feel, and I'm like barfing out my feelings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we sort of butt heads like that. But, I feel so grateful that I have a partner in my life that I can tell anything to. I can be myself, I can be myself fully. I can be myself. You know what I mean? I don't cover anything up with him. I tell him the truth, and that's big. And being a mom is really hard. You wish happiness for your children and you want them to be, you always want them to be happy, and that's just not the case. So I'm learning as I go. There's no manual about how to be, whatever. There are plenty of manuals about parenting. There's books about parenting, but we're dealing with human beings. It's not an instrument. It's not a piece of wood like a piano that you can just tune. You know what I mean?
I do.
So
I do.
Yeah. But, a good piece of cake makes me happy too.
Sure.
I got to tell you, I'm not exaggerating. I look forward to food. Food makes me happy. So, I could be in sort of like in limbo with something like, am I going to find the answer out to this, or, maybe a job or something? I want to know what's going to happen. And I'm feeling like, anxious because I have a lot of anxiety. I really suffer from anxiety. So I've learned how to deal with that. I take baths. I go to a meeting. If I go to the market and I just do some shopping just for some groceries, believe it or not, the market, seeing people there walking around, talking to strangers, getting my little food, knowing I'm going to prepare a meal and cooking a meal, it makes me happy, and it brings me more, and it brings me back to the center.
Because you know who you are, and you're not fighting it. You've learned to embrace it and steer it, guide it.
Yeah.
Be patient with yourself.
And music makes me happy too. I mean, like just going in the kitchen, and that's why I talk about people finding a passion, finding things that we're all good at something. And I think we can surprise even our own selves.
Right.
Because it's very easy to doubt ourselves. It's very easy. That, to me, people are more used to, and that comes from just, I think, generations of parenting and just like the way, nobody talked about stuff. And then it was like everybody harped on the negative. It was very easy to say, why do you always do that? What's wrong with you? Instead of saying, God, you're so good at X, Y, and Z. So I really make it a point to tell my kids, you're so smart. Look at this. You put the effort in, you studied really hard, and you got an A. That's wonderful. You see what you do when you work hard and you believe in yourself. It's like the results and they could be minuscule things.
Right.
They could be huge and they could be minuscule, but it's like progress, not perfection, Yeah.
Again, you kind of led with, getting older and, this conversation, and because we are older, but, I have found that with age, I become more comfortable in my skin. I'm more forgiving of myself, hopefully of others as well. But you seem to be wearing it well. There's a lot of maturity and wisdom in what you're saying that can only come with experience, with age.
No question. And Excuse me, I just burped. I tell my daughters, I'm like, because I want them to know that everything's going to be okay. You know what I mean? Like they'll grow and they'll learn, but they have to experience things.
Right.
How can you learn lessons if you don't experience and go through things?
Right.
I mean, the most teachable I've ever been is when I've hit that rock bottom, either financially or spiritually, or, in my addiction where I just didn't think I could stop drinking, or taking pills. I just didn't think I could live without it. And, I think that when you get to a place like that, you wind up checking your priorities, and it's not just about, I want to be happy, so I have to give up these things to be happy. It was more life and death for me. It really was.
Literally, you're not being melodramatic.
I am not being melodramatic. I mean, it's something that I talk about when I do, I'll do lectures about addiction, or when it's appropriate, I'll talk about addiction and, making it in the business these days. It's like you look around and you see all these music people, actors, even athletes that you find out they're addicted to something. I mean, the creative brain is sort of always, there's something or someone always kind of knocking at the door going, hey, what do you have for me today? What do you want to create today? What do you have to do today? And it's like this voice is going, you have to do something and you're not good enough yet. You still haven't done X, Y, and Z. It's a very hard thing actually sometimes to be a creative person because it's just something that's inside of you.
Right.
So rather than sort of like force it, I think we should celebrate it. So if that means I gotta get this out of my system, So you go to the piano, or you'll go to your guitar, or you'll take a walk and you'll hear melodies in your head, or, for me, it's going to the kitchen and baking something and going, how can I make this, how can I bring it to the next level? Oh, I know, I'm going to add cardamom, that kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff that fuels my creativity. I have to be creative to survive. And then there are times when I don't feel the creativity. And I feel emptiness, and so it's looking around and going, for this moment, where am I? Where are my feet? Where are my feet? Where's my heart? Being aware of my surroundings. And sometimes when life just gets so goddamn crazy, it's just stopping and breathing and taking a beat and being grateful for what's around you. And that's when I check myself with like a gratitude list. What am I grateful for right now? I have a roof over my head. I'm paying my bills. I get to eat good food. I have wonderful friendships. I have what I need. It's not just what I want. I have what I need. And there are many people that don't have what they need. And that's when the compassion, side comes out. And that's when it is good to reach out and help somebody else. So that's the thing I always say too. I love helping other people, but it's funny because the woman that I work with as my sponsor in my program, she says, don't say that you help other people. Just say you share your experience and that strength and that hope you have. If you say you help people, that is your ego.
Right.
And it's good to have an ego because that helps with your self-esteem.
It is.
But there's a difference.
I say we lift each other.
Yes, that's it. I love that. And we do. I love to lift other people. That brings me happiness in my heart, and even if it's, seeing someone I don't know, like saying, those glasses look really good on you, or you have really pretty eyes, or your skin, you have great skin.
Right.
You just don't know how you're going to make someone's day by doing that.
Just passing by, noticing and commenting instead of keeping it to yourself. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. You were talking about the sounds in our heads, the music, sometimes that being creative, it can keep us up at night. It can keep us distracted. It can keep us from sleeping. I'm reading Burt Bacharach's book, and he talks about that he used to have trouble sleeping. He even had an addiction problem with sleeping pills because the songs kept going.
Wow.
And I understand that. You're saying it and I go, right. I sometimes I just have to get out of bed and grab the guitar and hit record and write it down or score paper. And because I'm not going to sleep if I don't, get it on the outside, it stays on the inside and I'm still working it.
Yeah.
and it's exhausting. It's it's a gift. I honor it. It's also involves a lot of work. You have been very disciplined in your life in achieving a certain level of learning how to sing. As an arranger, as a vocal arranger, you are stellar at that. You're the one in the group who really put the harmonies together, and it's a lot. You have to have a natural gift for it, but you spent a lot of hours. A lot of them were growing up. You and your sister in Chynna growing up together and singing and being around, but you still did the work. And you guys did the work to the point when your first album came out that 2 of the 3 of you ended up in the hospital with exhaustion and dehydration, and which was just for lack of sleep and being pushed and traveling around the world and nonstop interviews, recording, rehearsals, recording, more interviews.
It was hard. I mean, I don't know what's harder now, just kind of like being a mom and the schedule I'm on now. But that, I think if you always appreciate what you have, even when you're going through it, I think that makes it better. I would say
you did, right? Or
you
have?
Did. No, I have. Like, the record company, like, we used to go to like six cities. Sometimes we'd be in 6 cities in one day.
Yeah.
And that's just crazy for anybody to do that.
Yeah.
And
it's cruel.
It's cruel. And, but at the same time, it was like, that's what they wanted us to do, to reach the most people, to get the most ads on the radio, to get the ads, to have the songs climb up the charts. It was like a system. You had to get the ad. The program director of the radio station had to add the record. So, okay, you have to go to one more station so you can, kiss the program director's ass, go to lunch with him, make him laugh and just say, please, we are going to add our record or whatever it is. It was such a game. And that part of it, I didn't really love. But the result of that was they played the song on the air, and then the people heard it. Yes. So if we didn't get the ad, it wouldn't be played, and then the people wouldn't hear it. So I tried to stay like grateful for the whole process.
Right. And they played it because they added it because they felt a connection with you personally. Because you showed up and pulled it together just to be charming and listen and engage. And also because it's a really great fucking record that you put out. At the end of the day, the music was great.
Yeah. It's like I remember like there were like people that just added the record right away. Like when Hold On first came out, it was like we got the automatic ads, and then it was like the 1 to 5 stations that were just too hard to get. And that's when we had to make the extra effort. And and sometimes it was political.
Yeah. Sometimes
it was a bunch of BS. But bottom line is that, I always tried to pinch myself and say, when this doesn't happen to a lot of people, don't complain. This is part of the work it takes to have success. It was not handed to us.
No,
we
not at all.
Really hard. We sat in the rooms for 4 years and wrote songs and recorded demos and put a record together, our debut album that we thought was great. And, we had lots of people sending songs, and, we had to choose which songs we're going to be on the record. And I'm grateful for every song that we chose and wrote. But it's like, all that effort went into it. And then it was just like section by section, the writing, the recording, the release, the promotion, the concerts, this and that, showing up. But it took a toll on our bodies, and it took a toll on us. And there were a lot of connections made, and a lot of those connections remain today. And, I'm sad because I can't get the girls in the studio. I can't get them to write.
Yeah, that is sad.
You can imagine how frustrating that is.
Of course, because it's magical what the 3 of you have, and because there's genetically it's magical, and historically it's magical. You just grew up singing together. I know, and that really became clear to me that very first time that we just rehearsed in my studio at home. And when the 3 of you sang a cappella for me, I just had my guitar and the piano, and you sang, it stunned me what you sounded like, the three of you in the room together. The three voices sounded like so much more. And there's something, and I've worked with a lot of singers in my life. So yes, it is sad.
I know.
It's, and I can see why it would be frustrating for you, to not get everybody in the studio and just go sing and write and create.
We just have all these years in between this, marriage and kids and life. And I just think there's so much to write about and there's so much to sing about, but we still tour a concert. We don't tour, but we do, dates. And I'm, right now it's rough. The whole touring industry is different. COVID really changed a lot. So I know we're not done, and I know we're going to keep doing stuff, because when the three of us do put our voices together and we sing together, no matter what we're going through, it's kind of like everything in the world stops. And there's that sound, and it just fills our hearts. And it's so like sonically like pleasing. Like we feel it too. And it's not like bragging or being like, we're great. It's not that. It becomes a spiritual thing for Wendy, Chynna, and I. It really does.
Yeah. Well, it's sonically, I mean, think about it just physiologically, sonically, certainly emotionally, but sonically it's a healing. There's a vibration that the three of you together.
Yes.
Each of you individually have really unique and beautiful voices. Together, you've said it as well. And so is Chynna, and so is Wendy. It's just, there's some magic that happens. The harmonics are sparkling, and there's just something about it that, I mean, doctors use sound for healing. Yeah. Ultrasound.
Sure.
I mean, so you are getting healed, and you are creating a healing and participating in a healing every time you all get up on stage and sing. And there's a lot of love in the band too, because the band, besides being, having your husband, Rob, who's really gifted musician, in the band, and everybody's really talented. You've always been surrounded by talented musicians, but it's a family feeling. There's a lot of love. I know the people who play with you, whether they're related by blood or by music.
Oh God, I love our band so much.
Yeah. They're great people that you have.
Great people.
Yeah. Around you.
Our keyboard player, Troy Dexter, is just the funniest human being
I love Troy.
Ever met. Troy is so goddamn funny. And we send each other, I love to like do I don't know, parody, whatever it's called. Like I change the lyrics to songs, and what we think. It could be a dirty lyric. It could be X-rated. It could be just like silly or funny. I mean, we send over text. We'll just randomly send each other, something funny that we think that the lyric sounds like. And that gives me life. And, that whole thing, to be able to share music with somebody like Troy and my husband, and Fox, our bass player. And, I mean, like, to have these people that we love and we laugh with, we don't take a second for granted. Every concert we do with them, it's like we wouldn't be able to do it without them, and they can't do it without us, with Wilson Phillips. So we get up there, and it's like with this one big celebration. It's a celebration of music. It's a celebration of love and friendship together. And then seeing the people out there, like today I was on Jeff Lewis. He's got a XM, it's called Jeff Lewis Live. And I go on about once a month, and he's really funny. It's real crazy, and he's hilarious. But there was a girl who called in and said, because Jeff was playing part of You're in Love, our song called You're in Love. And the woman called and she goes, when you were just playing that, it just brought me back to that time in my life. And that's the thing, maybe I put on like Carly Simon, You're So Vain, because I remember what it was like to drive down Sunset Boulevard and hear, Mick Jagger in the background, or like hearing the harmonies, or just the way that record was recorded. It's such a cool record. It's like we associate the music with times in our lives. Right. And I don't even know where I'm going with this, but yeah, it's really cool, because I think, I don't know what I would do without music. I just don't know what I would do.
Me neither. I do know I'd be miserable. I'd be sad, depressed.
Yeah.
I know we had a taste of that when COVID started.
Yeah.
And then, so many of us had to find a way to continue to create. Yeah.
Well, my daughter Lola said the other day, she goes, Mom, she said, I know this is kind of a bad thing to ask, but those would you rather, the game, like, would you rather do this or that? And she just said randomly, she goes, would you rather be deaf or blind? If you had to lose your hearing or your sight?
Right.
And I said, well, it would definitely be sight because there is, the thought of not being able to hear music, I don't know what I would do.
Yeah. I've asked myself that question, I guess, just as a kid, but certainly I'm with you on that. It would be a painful, but not difficult decision.
Yeah.
For me, it's, it's already decided.
Yeah.
Hey, is it true that your dad almost named you Carnation?
Yeah. No, my mom wanted Carnation, but Dad said, that's too long. How about Carnie? So that's how it came.
Oh, well, yay, Dad, on that move.
You're right.
That was a good decision.
Yeah, it was. Oh, Carnation would have been horrible. Hi, Carnation. It's not a great one.
No, that boy.
Sorry if anyone's named Carnation when they're listening.
Right. Things will get better.
Right. Oh, God.
I read that the story of Wilson Phillips began with a basketball game, and I found that kind of a funny story. It said that in 1968, your dad and John Phillips of the Mamas and the Papas would go meet in their spare time and just shoot hoops. And then the moms, ended up bringing the kids in the baby carriage,
Yes.
and you all just started sleeping over at each other's houses. But it began from that.
Yeah. I mean, John and my dad played basketball a few times. And they come over for parties, it was
Sure.
it was late 60s, so it was like everybody was doing drugs and partying and all that stuff. And so they became friends, and then my mom and we grew up all together. So Chynna was over at our house a lot and we were there a lot too. I have many memories. And then she kind of got into like some drugs and stuff at a young age, and she kind of drifted off, and we kind of separated ways for a while. And then one day, I ran into Chynna at the beach, in Venice, like on the pier and, by the pier. And I said, it's been so long since I've seen you. We should get together one day. And right in that time, like 14, 15, 16 years of age, I was discovering, harmony in terms of like singing with my friends. Mm-hmm. And so I would get everyone together and we would sing like, the Eagles and Fleetwood Mac. And it was like this real, sort of organic, process of just like sitting on the floor and harmonizing. And I thought to myself, I wonder what it would be like if the three of us sang harmony together. And, Chynna didn't know how to sing harmony, and she almost still doesn't. I have to teach her everything. It's very funny. That's why she takes the melody usually. Mm-hmm. But she admits it, it's very funny. But like Wendy's always on the high and I'm always on the low. So it really worked out right. Yeah. With usually Chynna's in the middle and Wendy's on the top and I'm on the bottom. And when we first, because we would sing together as young girls, but we never harmonized. And it was when we were 18 years old and we were in my sister's room doing bong loads, getting, wasted, it was like something happened, and my mom, and she heard us through the ceiling.
Right.
And she came downstairs and she says, "What are you guys doing?" And we said, "What? Sorry, we're being so loud." She goes, "No, what are you doing?" We said, "We're singing harmony, Mama." And she goes, "You sound incredible together. You gotta do something. Like, what am I hearing here?" And we said, I think we have a sound.
Yeah.
And it was like, we only referred to us as, we have a sound. It was a sound.
Well, you do. And something that's really interesting about your sound and the way that you determine who's singing what part, your harmonies, your voice leading is, I'm going to geek out with you for a moment, but your voice leading is not typical for vocal writing.
Right.
You jump around to different parts. You sing whatever you feel is the right part, where oftentimes, even with the Beach Boys, like what you grew up around, Mamas and the Papas, things are stacked. Whoever's singing on top stays on top. If you're middle, you're middle. But you are always swapping.
Always.
And it's this incredible dance vocally that I find really unique and intriguing, and
Thank you.
I'm mesmerized by it. I always have been, and it's the vocal choices.
It is. And also, we really started exploring more vocals, like really got into vocals for the second album, Shadows and Light.
Yeah.
And because it wasn't, quite as successful, nearly as successful as the first album, if you really dive into that record, it was like one big therapy session. I mean, we were young, we catapulted right into the business and worked really hard. And then all of a sudden we came back and we went, Jesus, we feel like, all these issues of childhood started surfacing, and we started dealing with them in therapy. We all got into therapy, and then we thought, let's just write about this stuff. And so we did started writing about it, but we also explored a lot of vocal stuff. And a lot of that was with Glenn Ballard, our co-writer, and producer. And that was really intense working with Glenn, because it was like, we would start something, he would finish it. He would start something, we would finish it. It was so enmeshed and intertwined, but we were always on the same page. It just is amazing when you find a collaborator like that. And he was so gracious, being such a successful producer, that he would give us this creative freedom,
right,
to do that. But when he also felt strongly about something, he would put his foot down and say, I just don't think that's a strong bridge. I think we can go to a different chord. I think we could do, and then he would just miraculously do something like Glenn does. He's so unbelievable.
He really is. He's a wonderful guy.
Oh God, he's the greatest thing ever. But he was like a brother, and like our fourth member. So we really relied on him, for a lot. And, but he also gave us a lot of, creative freedom vocally, and, but also like all those moving parts and everything. Sometimes it was just because one girl would say, no, I want to sing that part. So I'd be like, all right, fine. Then you take that. And then, that means that, Wendy, you're going to have to jump around here, and it's not going to be your typical thing that you would think of. But because Chynna wants to sing this part, Wendy, you're going to have to do this, because that's how we heard it. I know people might not understand that, but you're right. There was a lot of, gymnastics, if you will, in the vocals.
Absolutely.
We
it's
liked it
special.
that way.
I did too. I found it a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
And by the way, I wanted to testify that you never use recorded tracks when you're playing live. You didn't back then. You don't now.
No.
We added extra singers when we worked together to make sure that everything we had 6 people singing, and but it's something you guys have been sticklers about, and big respect, especially at the time, like when you were starting, because a lot of people were starting to use tracks back then for choreography and all the various things. And you sang.
No, I mean, when we went to Europe and Japan, they were very, very big on singing, lip syncing and singing to a track. And that's for television show purposes. Yeah. We did a lot of that. And that was just the way that they did it. And to be honest, we kind of were relieved sometimes, because if our voices were tired or whatever, we wouldn't have to worry about pitch. Singing live is really hard, but I think that's why people really love concerts, because you get to really see an artist, and you really get to see their artistry when they can ad lib and change a melody here and there. I mean, I look at somebody, I love John Mayer. I bring him up because I love his songwriting. I love his voice. I love how he's just in his own world, and he's so expressive. He's an amazing songwriter. You know what I mean? Like I'm actually kind of obsessed with him.
I am too.
Yeah, but
I got to know him because my wife Melanie toured with him for a year, singing with him, which was a dream job for her, and especially because she already knew all the parts and every lyric. Because who doesn't? It's it's such his music is great. He's a great guy, by the way. Have you gotten to meet him? Do you know John?
No,
he's a lovely guy. He's really, I'm telling you, he's a good person.
We flew on an airplane together, and I was too scared to say hi to him, because sometimes I get really shy, believe it or not. Sometimes I do, but I
want to. I know I need to get you out of here in a couple minutes, so I want to do a little speed dating. I have 3 closing questions that I ask all of my guests, and I'll ask them to you, and then you can take the extra minute or 2 to talk about anything that you want. My first is, since this show is called Making It, what does making it mean to you, both personally and professionally?
Well, I think of making love. First of all, that's the
There you
first thing.
go.
I can't help it. It just comes to my mind. Making it. I'm like, oh, it's like love making, and making it. Well, it's a personal thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody can define that for you. You know, and if you've made it, then where do you go from there? So I don't know. Making it it's a process. You know, it's evolving. It's about evolving, personally, you know, professionally, whatever. It's a constant evolving, I think. You know, it's like, what does that mean? That if you make it, are you accepted? What now you're in the club, or you're, you know, I don't really know. I mean, it's almost a scary thought, because it's like, then what?
Mm-hmm.
That's where my brain goes, because I'm hard on myself, you know, and I always want the next thing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not really satisfied all the time. That's why I always want more.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a goal of mine, is to not have to achieve everything.
Yeah.
You know, just be okay with what is and what has been.
Well, that's a full circle answer, starting with sex, going to what next, to being content with what is and what has been.
It was off the top of my head, though.
It's great. I don't see it as a destination personally either. So it's a journey. You know, it's a process. It's
a journey.
Yeah.
And by the way, there's nothing wrong with celebrating things that happen.
It's so important to celebrate.
So yeah. Yes. So, you know, like when we had a number one record, it was like, oh my God, we actually got a number one record. That's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, I took it in. Oh, thank you, God. Thank you, Chynna. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, all the listeners.
Yeah. My second question of the three is, can you share 3 tips for success that have driven your career?
3 tips for success. Vision. So that could be, that's a very personal thing, but that could be, you know, when you have your head on the pillow, and you're, you know, in your thoughts and you're about to go to sleep, visualize what you want. Visualize yourself there. Visualize yourself doing it. So visualization, actually seeing yourself doing or being, or, you know, that's important. Resilience. Having resilience, you know, being able to bounce back if there's setbacks, you know, learning from it, just being resilient, you know, it's almost like they always say, you got to have thick skin, you know, you got to have thick skin in this business. You got to, you know, resilience also is sort of like letting negativity bounce off you too. I think that's connected. And gratitude, I think, is really important. Because for me, I have to stay in gratitude, because then, that if I don't stay in gratitude, then I'm in entitlement, and entitlement is, not a good thing for me. I become very selfish. I start thinking about what I think I deserve, what I'm owed, what you know, should be, you know, and, so gratitude is for me,
and especially in the household that you grew up in, what you saw, you know, you grew up around excess of amazing, fantastic success, but also excess of things that were detrimental as well. And also you've worked really hard. So through your life to earn, nothing was handed to you. It's every bit has been earned and continues to be earned. But so I could see where that would even be a little bit extra challenge for you. Yeah. But absolutely gratitude. Absolutely. And I hear that word a lot on this show, which makes me happy.
Makes me happy too.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in gratitude, then you are appreciative.
Yes.
You know, you're where your feet are. You know, I talk about that a lot. You know, and then your expectations are lower. If you're in gratitude, you're not expecting so many things. You know. Mm-hmm. And that's important, but also, you know, staying on your toes too. I mean, there's nothing wrong with challenging yourself too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You got to challenge yourself sometimes, because I can get very complacent about things.
Mm-hmm.
I can be like, start getting lazy and complacent, just be like, I don't, or doubting myself,
Mm-hmm.
So vision, resilience and gratitude, I think are I mean, I could think of 10 more, but
Sure.
those are off the top of my head.
Great. Thank you for that. My last question.
Yeah.
And before I let you go, is at this point of your life, with everything that you know to be true, what would you tell your young self?
Oh, I don't even know why I'm getting like a little emotional. That's because you're so sweet, Terry.
Thank you.
You are.
So are
you. That that honestly, that love is the most important, most powerful thing that we can ever experience in the world. More than success, more than any achievement or anything. It's love. It's connection with people. That's really, I think that's ultimately what I crave.
Right.
So sorry, my mom just called me.
It's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
That's what that is.
I'll give her my best.
I will.
By the way.
That's what I would tell my little self. Just remember that love is what should steer you, what should propel you, what you should appreciate, and what you should notice.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a beautiful place to end this conversation. And I love you and appreciate you so much. And
I love you.
And I'm so happy for your continued joy that you're finding in your life and that you're bringing to other people's lives. So thank you for that. I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and we really appreciate you, and remind you all to stay safe and stay inspired. Yes. Any closing words, Carnie?
Yeah, I love that. Stay inspired. Yeah. Stay inspired, and whatever inspires you, great. Eat it up.
Eat it up.
Thank you for everybody for listening and, any support. I appreciate it.
And people can find you at where?
Well, I mean, I'm not huge on social media, but
which I appreciate that you.
Right, I know.
Respect.
Twitter pisses me off, but I like posting on Instagram, because it's like I share like some food, some videos, some pictures, my family sometimes. But I think it's Carnie 68. That's where you usually can find me, is bouncing around on Instagram. That's really it.
That's great. Lovely to see you. I know you need to run, so take good care of yourself.
Great to see you too. Mwah. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, Terry, darling.
Bye, everybody.
Tune in again next week for another great episode of Making It with Terry Wollman.